Imagine a wedding day. A white dress. A young bride smiling as her family takes pictures, minutes before she's meant to walk down the aisle. Now imagine that same bride stepping toward a narrow forest path and vanishing. No scream, no struggle, no final goodbye. 36 years later, deep inside that same Oregon forest, a hiker discovers a pair of weather-worn white bridal shoes and the shattered remains of an old camcorder. On the damaged tape inside, investigators find a 47-second clip, one that completely rewrites everything detectives believed about the bride's disappearance. This is the story of Alice Maywood, known across the Pacific Northwest as the Forest Bride. And the truth behind her vanishing was far darker than anyone imagined. Gravewood, Oregon, 1987. A rural, pine-covered town where neighbors still left their doors unlocked, and where danger felt as distant as the nearest big city. Little towns like this are supposed to be safe, but sometimes horror doesn't come from the outside. Sometimes it grows quietly at the edges of places that seem peaceful. The bride was Alice Maywood, 24 years old, creative, introverted, and beloved by nearly everyone who knew her. She wrote small newspaper columns, mostly nature stories and fictional retellings of local folklore. Her fiancé was Tom Cooper, a quiet, reserved mechanic who lived with his father on the other side of town. Their relationship appeared stable, unremarkable, the sort of pairing everyone assumed would simply work. The wedding, scheduled for June 14th, was meant to take place in Alice's family backyard. A simple ceremony with homemade decorations, acoustic music, and 50 guests from nearby towns. By noon, guests were already seated, the groom was waiting, and Alice had slipped inside the house to finish getting ready. At 12:17 p.m., wearing her dress for the first time that day, she stepped out onto the back patio with a disposable camera in hand. Several guests later recalled her saying, "I'll be right back, just a quick picture by the trees." She walked toward a narrow path leading into a small cluster of pines, and that was the last moment anyone saw her alive. The disappearance was reported within 40 minutes, unusually fast for a missing person case. Deputies arrived by 1:10 p.m. and immediately launched a search. No signs of a struggle, no torn fabric, no drag marks, no footprints other than her own. Her trail ended abruptly halfway down the forest path, like someone had lifted her off the ground. The early theories. 1. The cold feet theory. Police initially considered that Alice may have panicked and run away. But her journal, her letters, her recent purchases, everything indicated excitement, not fear. 2. The abduction theory. Yet there were no tire marks on the dirt road, no secondary footprints, and not a single witness saw an unfamiliar vehicle in the area. 3. Animal attack. Oregon has wildlife, of course, but experts found no signs of blood, fur, claws, or disturbed soil. 4. Domestic violence. Tom, the fiancé, was investigated heavily, but more than 20 guests confirmed he was within view the entire time Alice was missing. The case quickly fell into a category detectives hate the most: a disappearance with zero physical evidence. For years, the file collected dust. When the case was reopened in 2023, advancements in forensic microanalysis allowed investigators to re-examine the tiny amount of physical evidence collected in 1987, specifically a thin white fiber found near the forest path. Originally assumed to be part of her wedding dress, the fiber turned out to be something else entirely. It was not fabric. It was microscopic bone dust, embedded into a sliver of cloth, a match to the dress Alice wore that day. The only logical explanation? Alice had come into contact with bone fragments, at some point just before her disappearance. But how and where? During the renewed investigation, Detective Marissa Helton searched through the Maywood family attic and discovered a weathered notebook belonging to Alice. Most of it contained drafts for short stories, until the final pages, where the tone changed abruptly. Entry, June 12, 1987. I heard footsteps outside again. Slow and heavy. Tom says I'm imagining things. But last night, they stopped right beneath my window. Whoever it is, they're watching. Entry, June 13th, 1987. Found the forest path blocked with branches this morning. Almost like someone wanted to keep people out. Or wanted someone to go in carefully. I don't know why, but I think he doesn't want this wedding to happen. I just don't know who he is. Entry, morning of the wedding, June 14th. If I see him today, I'll record it. I don't care what Tom says. I need to know what's going on. I need proof. This explains something no one had known at the time. Alice had taken a camera into the woods, and she believed someone had been stalking her. The camcorder fragment. When a hiker found the broken camcorder in 2023, investigators assumed the 36 years of moisture and decay had destroyed everything. But a small section of magnetic tape survived. Digital forensics restored a 47-second clip. The footage was grainy, but the audio was chillingly clear. Alice is breathing heavily, the camera pointed toward dense trees. Then her voice. "If you're here, come out. I know you've been following me. I'm not afraid of you." Branches snap. The camera jerks violently. Alice gasps, not in terror, but like she recognizes someone. And then, faintly, "You should have told the truth." A thud. The tape ends. The biggest question for detectives. Who was she talking to? After the new video evidence, the old suspects were reviewed. 1. The fiancé, Tom Cooper. Tom's alibi remained airtight. No suspicious financial moves. No history of violence. 2. The ex-boyfriend, Grant Lobb. No signs of stalking or recent contact. 3. A random predator. Statistically possible, but extremely unlikely given the lack of evidence. 4. A family member. No motive, no opportunity, no behavioral red flags. Detective Helton believed the answer wasn't in the old theory list at all. The bone dust changed everything. It meant Alice hadn't simply been taken. She had discovered something she wasn't supposed to find. The soil analysis that broke the case. Forensic geologists compared soil from the shoes found in 2023 with soil samples across the forest. The result was unexpected. The soil on Alice's bridal shoes did not match the forest path near the wedding property. Instead, it matched a specific location 1.3 kilometers deeper into the woods. A long-abandoned limestone quarry. A place no one had searched in 1987. A place that used to be the site of cremation experiments for a defunct funeral home in the 1960s. Suddenly, the bone dust made sense. Alice had walked, or been taken, to the quarry. When investigators revisited the quarry with modern equipment, they used 3D ground-penetrating radar to scan beneath the limestone shelves. What they found stunned everyone. A sealed cavity inside the rock wall. Inside were rusted tools for processing bone, remnants of cremated remains from at least 3 different individuals, evidence of illegal disposal practices, a set of personal items belonging to Melvin Cord, a missing funeral home employee from 1984. Melvin Cord had disappeared 3 years before Alice. His body was never found, but bone dust from this cavity matched the dust on Alice's dress. This suggested one thing. Alice had found the quarry, and the quarry's secrets. Who was Melvin Cord? A quiet man in his 50s who worked at Pine Hollow Funeral Home until 1984. The funeral home was shut down for mishandling remains, but Cord vanished before he could be questioned. Rumors suggested he had ties to organized crime, hired to illegally cremate bodies so they couldn't be identified. But if he died in 1984, then who was stalking Alice in 1987? One final piece of evidence changed the direction of the investigation again. A fingerprint recovered from the inside of the camcorder battery compartment. Not Alice's, not Tom's, not any guests. It belonged to Harold Cord, Melvin's younger brother. Harold had worked part-time at the same funeral home. He lived only a few miles from the Maywood property in 1987, and he had spent decades working in roles that kept him unnoticed: janitor, groundskeeper, seasonal laborer. He died in 2009, before the case was reopened. Neighbors later admitted Harold frequently walked in the woods. He knew the quarry, he knew the paths, and he had a long history of mental instability documented quietly in medical files. Investigators formed the most likely scenario: white medium star theory of events. Alice suspected someone was watching her. She took her camcorder to catch them. Harold Cord, familiar with the forest, followed her deeper into the woods. She stumbled near the quarry and saw something she shouldn't have. Harold confronted her. She recorded him. He panicked, pushed or struck her, causing her fall. The thud heard on tape. Her body was hidden somewhere in the quarry structure or nearby sinkholes that remain inaccessible even today. The case will likely never be proven beyond a doubt, but the evidence aligns. Bone dust, soil, fingerprint, stalking behavior, location, time frame. Narrator. Cold cases rarely offer neat endings. Sometimes justice isn't a courtroom verdict, but the truth finally being understood. Alice Maywood didn't run away. She didn't leave her fiancé. She didn't disappear magically into the forest. She walked toward danger because she was searching for the truth. She tried to document the person who had been stalking her. And in doing so, she uncovered a much older crime, one connected to a hidden, illegal cremation operation lost to time. The camera she carried became her final message. The soil on her shoes became her map, and the bone dust on her dress became the silent testimony she left behind. 36 years later, the forest finally spoke. But one question still lingers. If Harold Cord was the last person Alice saw alive, was he working alone? Or was someone else, someone still alive, afraid of what Alice discovered that day?